how do you pause?
Thanks so much, Lauren. Yeah, it really started with the breath for me. I started breathing many years ago when I was actually first in the recovery community. And breathing was just, it was really simple. It was like an inhale to 4 counts, exhale to 4 counts, just as a way for me to slow myself down so that I could focus, so that I could not drink or use or whatever it was in those days. And it has definitely evolved from there. But the breath is always for me just such a foundational practice. And the rest book really came out of all my breath work, right? So as I went along my breath work journey, I was still having trouble slowing down. It's like I had all of these resources and all these tools with my breath and I knew what to do, but then I was still struggling to pause and I was still struggling to actually do the thing I needed to do. It's we can have all this information just like with breath work, just like with food or whatever it is. It's like a lot of us know what we need to do to take care of ourselves, but then there's something missing between that and actually doing the thing. And for me, it was slowing down. For me, it was pausing. For me, it was definitely learning to rest and kind of accessing myself and going, okay, what do I need in this moment? And the thing about rest is that so often people think, oh, either I don't have time for that, that seems so luxurious, or that seems so unimportant, or that seems so boring. People have all kinds of ideas about what rest looks like and also what it means. And one of the biggest things I hear from folks is, I literally don't have time for that. My clients will say, I do not have time for rest, like anything but rest. And so I always get really curious about that. And so we start to unpack, okay, where did that belief come from? Like, why do you think you have no time? Let's actually look at your day. How much time are you spending on social media? How much time are you just distracted doing other things? We can actually start to come up with all these minutes in our day that we thought we didn't have when we just really take a really honest look at our life, just like we do in program, right? In recovery, we go, okay, let's actually get really clear on where we're spending our time, where our attention is going, what are we focused on? And for me, especially right now, as a mom of three, we have land, we have animals, we have a lot going on. Learning how to really get underneath my belief system has been really important. And also look at my history, look at how I was brought up, look at the culture that we live in that has us kind of perpetually rushing, perpetually striving, perpetually trying to get somewhere else other than where we are right here. Because
It's
so
so true. It's
often,
like a badge.
yeah,
Like a badge. Like,
yeah.
how are you? I'm busy. I'm so busy. That's a
Yes.
badge.
It is a badge. And I think the busy thing, and it's changing. I see people like Ariana Huffington writing about burnout. And we see all these, especially women who have big platforms and media companies and all over on different genres and different jobs talk about this burnout piece and talk about how real that is. Because for one, it's like women are expected to do more. That's just a fact. Like we're expected to work way, way harder than men. If you're a white woman, it's even more. You're just constantly expected to do all these things. And so you have to work really hard as a woman. You have to prove yourself in all these ways. And in that system that we're in, that makes it really difficult to even want to slow down. Because when we start to slow down, we go, but what am I worth? If I'm
Yeah.
not rushing, if I'm not hustling, if I'm not busy, like what is my intrinsic value? And we're so focused on attaching our value to what we produce. And so when we actually start looking at that piece and, oh, it doesn't matter how much I do, if I still don't feel worthy, I'm never going to feel worthy doing more things. It's not going to work. And so the work is actually unpacking all those systems and those structures and those beliefs and the feelings and all the grief and all the pain that's associated with slowing down and resting so that we can actually start to reclaim our worth and really reclaim our intrinsic value that isn't based on something on the outside.
You looked inside. There was some fear. You did the integration work. Do you explain what that is for you?
Sure, yeah. So for me, this comes directly from internal family systems, which is work that I practice and I have been working with an IFS therapist for many years. And this is really deep work. And essentially, IFS is parts work. So what the model and the framework of IFS is inviting us to do is to, in a moment, let's say when we're feeling afraid, to first of all kind of switch that language. Instead of saying, I am afraid, the language is, there's a part of me that's afraid. So in that differentiation, we're already creating space, which is so beautiful. And it starts to take the personalization out of it. It starts to make it feel possible to even address the fear. If I can go, okay, I'm not, all of me isn't afraid right now. There's just some aspect of me that's scared. And so for me, that looked like turning to that part. And in IFS, they call that doing a U-turn, which really means just going inside. So taking your awareness inside and tending to that fear. And for me, when my parts show up, they're always younger aspects of myself that are unintegrated. And by unintegrated, I mean that they need to really be met and be seen because they were never met, seen, or witnessed in my childhood. And so that's my role as an adult now, right? Who's kind of tending to all these aspects of myself.
You also talk about that multitasking with children, about how you don't have to do it all right now, which I thought was amazing. Do you want to discuss that?
When I've got my 3 kids in the kitchen and I'm cooking, I'm gonna be talking to them, I'm gonna be cooking, I'm gonna be doing multiple things at once. But it's really about, can I bring consciousness to that? And then in the moments when I don't absolutely have to multitask, don't. In those moments, I'm giving myself a break. I'm giving my brain a break. I'm giving my nervous system a break. And I'm just doing that one thing. So it's really about, and does this really call for this right now? Can I ask that question? Do I absolutely have to be doing these 3 things at once? Or can I take one of them off my plate? Or could I take 2 of them off my plate? So it's really about, again, so much of this work is about the awareness practice. What do I actually need to be doing right now? And can something wait?
How do you remind yourself to pause, to rest, to stay off socials? And do you have an accountability partner? Do you have I mean, what do you do to stay good?
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky. My partner, Nick, is really supportive of, he's actually hardly on social media at all anymore. And so he's been inspiring for me. I think now that, I mean, now that I have a book coming out, had pretty much been off social media until it was time to start promoting the book and then my podcast. And so it was like, okay, now it's time to do this thing. And now I need to kind of be a little bit more active over here. But a lot of that is just through, I think to your point, a lot of it's through growing up and just getting older and feeling, especially now as a mom of 3, like my time and my, like the hours that I have in a day are so much more limited and the bandwidth that I have is limited. And so often look at like, how do I actually want to spend my energy? That's what's really filling my cup, what's feeling like a really good exchange for me. And social media doesn't feel like a good exchange for me, like a nourishing exchange, for example. But being outside with my kids, that feels like a nourishing exchange. Going to take care of our donkeys, that feels like a nourishing exchange. Getting my hands in the soil, that feels like, yes, I'm working, quote unquote, but the energy that I'm receiving from that as well, it's reciprocal, right? And social media doesn't give me that like reciprocal relationship. And so part of my life now and kind of my practice is really looking at what fills me up. And it's different. I think in my 20s, it was like, what can I get out of life? What can I, writing these lists about, this is the kind of partner I want to be with, and they better be all the things. And it was, I had this such an attitude about everything. And now it's different. It's shifted. It's softened. It's okay. It's not what can I get from nature? It's what can I exchange with nature? Like, how can we be in relationship with each other versus me trying to get something?
And what would you tell somebody who they know they're not doing what they're aligned with? Everything might look good on the outside, but on the inside, they feel like life's passing them by. They have no time. They're short fused with everyone. They have no time for anything.
That's a really good question, Lauren. And I've seen a lot of women like that actually in my practice. As someone who doesn't work in corporate and who doesn't have that, I've worked in corporate in the sense of I've brought my work into corporate, but I've never had a corporate job. And especially working with women who are around my age or even 5, 10 years older than I am, who are in those kind of jobs, who are running big companies and who really don't have the time. And I think in the past, I would have tried to be like, okay, let's just find the time. But then when I hear what their schedules are, even in a work day, it just blows my mind. It really blows my mind. And I think part of that is the particular corporate culture that they're in. There's so many layers to that. It's not just one thing. I always encourage folks to really look at, really, again, it kind of goes back to what I said before, but just take an honest look at your life. Just really look at your life. Where are you spending your time?